Making this video required hours of preparation, and I decided to record this video on my bed while I was folding my laundry because I thought the backdrop of my beautiful clothing was pretty in my last video, so I decided to do it again. I had to lay down paper towels and go foraging for plants in my yard and 2 different neighbors' yards, and even transplant some plants into a cup and open up 9 tabs on this phone. So I hope you enjoy my video. So apparently one video that was under 2 minutes long, which I have in one of these tabs, which is why I said I had to have 9 tabs open, got almost 2 million views. And it was this. This. Becky Hayes shares her 1931 edition of The Joy of Cooking. And what she shows in this video, which is not playing, but you can see the title of, is the pages of this book that explain how to cook rabbits and hares, squirrels, and opossums, and beavers. So I'm going to open up to those pages right now and show you the viral pages very carefully, because this book needs to have what she did to her book done to it. It needs to have a piece of tape put there. The copy of the book she showed off on her video on her channel is taped. Let's see, I bookmarked it with the one with a nick in the piece of toilet paper I used as a bookmark. So this is the 1.9 million view page. How to cook game, rabbit or hare, about squirrel, how to cook squirrel, and on the next page, how to cook bear, raccoon, woodchuck, beaver, beaver tail, peccary, wild boar, about venison, deer, moose, or elk. Basically, if you married a hunter, you would know how to cook whatever he caught that day. So that is the 1.9 million view page. There are other interesting things in this book, which is why I spent hours foraging around my yard and my neighbor's yard and putting down paper towels over my bandanas that I was laying flat to dry on my bed after doing my laundry. And it is another page in this book where I nicked the piece of toilet paper I had bookmarked it with. Where is it? Give me one moment. I'm trying to be very, very careful with this old book. Where's the nicked piece of paper? This part. Ooh, I'm not trying to hurt the book. So here it says about cultivated salad greens. And even in the part about cultivated salad greens, it mentions something that a lot of people haven't heard of. Mache, or corn salad. I've planted a lot of seeds for this plant, and I've had like a very low germination rate. Like I've planted like several seed packets of seeds and only ever gotten a few plants, and then they didn't grow back. Like they didn't like reseed and grow back. But this is interesting. It's interesting. And then it says about wild greens. And interestingly, it doesn't talk about stinging nettle, even though they have a nettle soup recipe later on in the book. But it does talk about dandelion, Taraxacum officinale, or officinale as many people call it, sorrel, Rumex acetosola, or Rumex acetosa. There are many edible varieties of sorrel, and winter cress, or Barbera vulgaris. So here I have some Rumex acetosola, Taraxacum officinale, and a plant that is similar, or a few plants that are similar to Barbera vulgaris, which is a plant in the mustard family that's like a wild mustard. And the reason I have these plants here is if you wanted to follow these recipes, I wanted to show you what plants they're actually talking about and what you can use as substitutes. So first I'm going to start with what is called sheep sorrel, also known as Rumex acetosola. That is this. And this is a spinach leaf, like a real actual spinach leaf from my boyfriend's spinach plant. And as you can see, the leaves from this plant, which I will refer to as sheep sorrel from now on, look like kind of like little spinach leaves. If you eat them raw, just make sure you don't have any kidney problems because they're high in oxalic acid. If you ever have no lemon and no capers and some fish and this plant in your yard, fry this plant in butter and oil, put the fish in it, and it will taste like fish cooked in lemon butter caper sauce. I promise you, it will. But there are also other plants called sorrel, and they're not in the same plant family. Like this one is in the Polygonaceae family, and over here I have some plants. Well, actually, first I have to show you this one. This is Rumex crispus. It's yellow dock. And there's also another one that's also Rumex crispus, but it has different leaves called curly dock. You can tell them apart from one has a red vein and has wider leaves, and one has a green vein and has narrow leaves, but they both have the same seed tops. You can use those as a sorrel substitute, but you might want to put them in boiling water and then pour the water out, and then after doing that 1 or 2 times, use them because they're very high in oxalic acid. And another thing that's high in oxalic acid is these plants called sorrel. Not this. This is a clover. It's there for comparison. These plants right here, these are sorrels in the Oxalaceae family. And this one's Oxalis oregana, also known as redwood sorrel. You might see this walking on trails in the redwood forest. It's like purple underneath, and it likes to grow in rotting redwood. This one is Oxalis articulata. Sorry, the leaves close at night, so they're all folded over now. And so do the flowers, and it has like a pink flower. It's sometimes sold as an ornamental plant. And this one is kind of small, but when unfolded, it looks kind of like that one, but it's like purple on both sides. See that? And that is Oxalis spiralis. It's also sold as an ornamental plant, and you might find it for sale at a garden store as an ornamental plant. It has yellow flowers, and it's native to Peru. Actually, the articulata is native to Peru too. So you could use any of these sorrels as a substitute for this type of sorrel. And here's another one. I found this one growing in my neighbor's dirt pile. This one is an Oxalis species native to Africa. It's called Oxalis pace capre, and you can tell it apart because it has spots on the leaves, and when it has flowers, they're on thick stalks and they're yellow. It's the thing that Evelyn was eating in a few of my videos. If you accidentally pick some clover, most species of clover, this is an actual real clover, it's white clover, are edible. So as you can see, they're 3 leaves. They're shaped a little more rounded and less shamrockish, but they're edible. So you can eat them, but they won't taste sour. Can we get a little in the light shot of these together? See that? And as for dandelions, okay, these three are dandelions. They're different types of dandelions. There's like an entire like scientific research thing going on where they're studying the difference of the genome of different types of dandelions, but there are like broader leaf dandelions and like somewhat toothed dandelions and extremely toothed dandelions, but they're all what it says here. They are all Taraxacum officinale or officinale or however you want to pronounce it. These are all dandelions. And the reason I have these three different dandelion leaves is if I see a dandelion with like a different leaf form, when I'm somewhere, I actually like collect the seed pods and I put them in my yard. Because most dandelions actually reproduce asexually, which means they seed themselves. And they grow like the same dandelion exactly. But they can also reproduce sexually. They do attract like pollinators and get pollinated by bees. And this one could be like, for all I know, a cross between these two. But I thought they were interesting, so I just like leave them alone. I use them in my cooking. These are easier to wash for cooking. Some people think that these are more nutritious because they're more wild, or the ones with like the red stem are more nutritious because they're red. I just use them in my cooking. I use all of these leaves in my cooking. And these are two different leaves from like probably a cross of like Sanchez arvensis and Sanchez oeraceus, but the plants have a different shape of leaves. Like as you can see, you can't like overlap them. They're different. This one's like more of a triangle, and that one's kind of like got a curve to it. So you can use those in cooking instead of dandelions. And I actually had to Google Barbera vulgaris, and it showed me a picture of a plant in the mustard family that had yellow leaves. So I collected some wild mustards and the leaves from a cultivated variety of radish, which is this, that has yellow flowers because their Barbera vulgaris had yellow flowers. So they all have like a flowering top that looks like somewhat like broccoli, like a mini broccoli. The cultivated varieties have smoother leaves. This was a yellowish one I found with kind of like a spiny leaf. The spiny ones have to be cooked before you eat them. And this one has kind of like a white leaf. And this one I accidentally pulled up by the root. But as you can see, even though it has like a white flower on it, the shape of the leaves is like completely different from that one. And it's like more toothed. And basically like about wild greens. Alright, about wild greens, people. You should really learn about wild greens because now that I have like pulled this stuff all up, I'm not going to be like throwing it away. I'm actually in the middle of making like a wild green and bolted lettuce stir fry. If you didn't know, the leaves from lettuce when it's bolting you're going to see it are very bitter, but you can cook them, and there are numerous recipes for that on the internet. And anyway, I can't even end this video yet, though. I have to show you all the tabs I have open and why they're open, which means I have to move my plant and my stuff and sit down. It was 9:19. What an interesting time. So, it said that, wait a minute, there was another thing I didn't know what it was. Let me show you what it was. It was this white mustard. I looked at white mustard, European annual, with small tender green leaves, blah, blah, blah. And it said it was this. Or not this. Where's my white mustard tab? It went away. I actually, lost it. There it is. White mustard. It said it was this. Annual plant in the family Brassicaceae, the brassica family, like the cabbage family or broccoli family, whatever you want to call it. I don't think I've seen that one, but any one of these could be a substitute for that. And also a substitute for the winter cress, Barbara vulgaris. Sorry for forgetting about that detail earlier. See, this is why I have to have all these tabs open. And it's very annoying. My tabs come back. To get all this information into these videos. So, there was another one here. Where was it? It mentioned, somewhere in this it mentioned sea kale. And I'm not seeing it now. Where is it? Well, somewhere in this book it mentioned sea kale. And I had to look that one up too. For sea kale, it said it was, I had to look that one up. It said it was Crumbe maritima on Wikipedia. Like, I looked up what sea kale was, and this is what came up. If you started on the page and I missed it, I'm sorry. I'm losing vision in one of my eyes and kind of like looking at this through my phone as I'm recording it. But there was a recipe for this. I looked it up, and I have actually not ever seen this, but I have used Kakile maritima or sea rocket or sea arugula, and Martha Stewart has a recipe for it here, sea rocket potato salad. So a few times people have walked up to me at the beach when I'm collecting this stuff and they say, "What are you doing? What is that plant you're collecting?" And I've said, "Oh, I'm going to make Martha Stewart's potato salad with sea rocket." You can call it sea rocket, beach arugula, beach rocket, or Kakile maritima or maritima. It's got its names. There's also a Ukrainian name that at this moment I cannot remember, but I can remember something else I wanted to tell you about here. I have all these tabs open. There are numerous varieties of sorrel. That one's the one that is usually called French sorrel. And something interesting you can do with them is you can make green borscht. There it is. There's a tab about it. See? That's why I have all these tabs open. It's called Shavolovy. And there is Shavel written in Russian or Ukrainian or Cyrillic, basically. And it's like a borscht made with sorrel instead of beets. You can make it with this plant. During the pandemic lockdown, I was like pulling some of this off the side of the road, and one of my neighbors asked me what I was doing, and I said I'm making Shavolovy, a traditional green borscht from Russia made with sorrel leaves, and I'm picking sorrel to make it. And the next day, the neighbor mowed down the whole strip of grass and weeds out in front of their house. They were horrified that I was down there with my children, crawling on the ground picking this stuff. But another neighbor who is very friendly actually plowed his little field, and when you plow fields and there's roots for this, it grows back insanely. It'll take over the whole field. Ingredients for sorrel soup. I'll try to put links to all the tabs that I had to open to research this video in the comment section of this video, but I would just like to end this video by saying I really think this cookbook with recipes for everything from how to sear a steak to how to make a 5-star dinner to how to cook your fisherman's catch or your hunter's catch of the day or whatever's in your backyard is amazing. It's the cookbook for any situation you could possibly be in life. And I would also like to say that I also love how the minute I started making videos about cookbooks, people just started giving me more and more cookbooks. And then I would also like to say that my neighbor wrote a cookbook. And he wrote it 20 or 30 years ago. He had it published. It's all in black and white. And just recently, my neighbor who wrote the cookbook, well, I have to tell you about the cookbook before I explain what he did and why. He went to India, like, sometime, like, 20 or 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago. I'm not sure how many years ago it was, but he went to India in his youth. And he stayed at a Hindu temple with the Swamis, and he learned about Hinduism and became a vegetarian and started following their diet, and he has ever since. At some point, he wrote a cookbook of the recipes he remembered from his time in India, and he had it published in black and white. Recently, because he wrote the cookbook in India, and it was all recipes from India, he found a publishing company in India and asked them if they could take the cookbook and, like, republish it and put in, like, color pictures and make it look more, like, modern. So he sent them one copy of his cookbook, and they sent him back the cookbook with all the wording exactly word for word the same, the exact same things he wrote 30 years ago, but, like, with, like, shiny pages and colored pictures. Just one copy. There's one copy of this in existence. He now wants to raise money to have his cookbook published, like to have more copies published and to sell the copies and to use the money to fix up his kitchen and maybe even buy a second home. So, he was asking me, well, how could I promote my cookbook? What do you think I should do? And I said, well, why don't you make a YouTube channel? So he did. And this is it. Not this. Sorry. This is it. It's called Hash Man. And this one I'm actually going to have to get playing. And he talks about smoking hash in Kashmir, India, at the ashram with the guru named Swamiji. And this is it. I'm just going to play you the beginning. There it is. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video. I want you to watch his video. What is wrong with this thing? It's like, doesn't like my fingers anymore? Yeah, he lights the incense, drinks some tea, talks about his books, and smokes some hash out of the traditional kind of chillum they smoked out of at the ashram in India. The comments are turned off on the video, so you can't comment on it. And he has 42 views. I want him to get more views. And I'm disappointed he only got 42 views. I guess YouTube did the same thing to him that they did to me. And oh yeah, before I end this video, I want to mention that recently YouTube changed the settings on a bunch of my first videos I ever made, which were videos about medical marijuana, to make them only viewable to people who are over 18 and logged into their accounts. I have received like 6, maybe 7 notifications so far on videos I made in 2011 and 2017 and 2015 where I talked about marijuana that have now been made only available to people who are logged in and over 18. So if you go to watch one of my videos or show your friend one of my videos and it says you can't view this because you're not logged in and over 18, well, this is why. YouTube did it like literally like within a few hours of my friend uploading his videos about smoking hash out of his flaming chillum. And I want to tell you one thing about his video. You should watch it until the end, because when he actually lights up the flaming chillum, it's like the size of the Cheech and Chong joint in the movie Up in Smoke, and it goes up in flame in a similar manner. And he didn't do that on purpose. He wasn't trying to, like, make an Up in Smoke joke. But he did, unintentionally, and it's hilarious. So, I think it's time for me to, wash my feet. Wash your feet, see, that's what it says. And change my socks. In one of my earliest videos, I returned home and I was wearing this sock and another sock, and they're both still here, but I have never, in years, had both of them here together and wore a matching pair of socks that said YEM in the IBM logo. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like this video, share this video, watch my other videos, and subscribe to my channel, and definitely eat your greens. Whether they're like cultivated ones that you bought, or weeds, or something in between, because, you know, they're selling boxes of stinging nettle leaves at the Arcata Farmers Market as an edible green, so that would be like something in between. Bye, people.